Hello everyone, my name is Father Daniel Shaba. I am a priest at St. Peter's Cathedral, and I am excited to introduce you to everyone in the entire community the Chaldean language reading and writing lessons that we will be doing. It will be myself and Father Andrew who will be doing the second half of these lessons that we're doing, and who also put a lot of his hard work and effort into the book we will be using, the Chaldean language reading and writing grammar book that we will be using. So just to give everyone a background, we wanted to do this because we saw a dire need in needing to preserve the Chaldean language, especially when we see the language dying off. And it is up to us, it is up to our generation to make sure that we are keeping it afloat and we are continuing to pass it to our future generations. And of course, it's good to also note that Jesus himself, he spoke Aramaic, and it's good to preserve this ancient and holy language that we can participate in, and we could gain knowledge in what our fathers passed down to us. It is a jewel that should not be left to die off, but it's a jewel that's meant to be preserved, okay? So, of course, going into learning any new language, it's good to make sure you're being patient with yourself when we're going through the different consonants that we're going to be going through, and the different principles and rules that come with Chaldean pronunciation, grammar, vowels, so on and so forth. So just make sure you're staying patient. If you're watching this with your children, make sure you guys are following up with what we're going to be teaching you, and make sure if you have any questions you could reach out to us as well. So the way this class and all of the classes are going to be designed, this is just going to be the introduction to Chaldean reading and writing, but the way it's going to be designed is 3 different sections. So it's going to be designed in to recognize, read, and remember. So it's structured in a way where one is able to recognize what they're learning and able to apply it to reading, and then able to apply both of those to remembering, which allows one to go through the different exercises we'll be going through, okay? So right off the bat, I think we should go into the alphabet and see what consonants there are in the Chaldean language and how they're pronounced and so on and so forth. Okay, so just like English, when you're learning English, you must first learn the alphabet, right? Your A's, B's, and C's. And in this case, we're going to be learning the consonants of the Chaldean language, okay? So as you see on the screen, we begin with the first one, okay? We begin with alap. So alap is the first letter, it's right there. And you see it used as, in English, as air. So it makes the same sound as air. And it's written in transliteration, which means writing the language in English letters, okay? Writing the sound of it in English letters. So the first letter is alap. You can remember that by remembering air, okay? So we're going to go through this, and you could apply that to all the consonants that we'll be going through. So the first letter is alap. Beth. Gamal. Dalath. He. Wow. Zain. Heth. Teth. Yoth. Kap. Lamath. Mim, Nun, Simkath, A, Pe, Sade, Qop, Resh, Shin, and Tau. So we have 22 consonants that are applied to the Chaldean language, and those are them. And if you need to go back, you could just rewind this video and go through those again, just so you could get the pronunciation correctly, especially the guttural words like Tayth and Heth. I know sometimes it could be hard for people to pronounce those. So you could practice them by pronouncing them with me as I'm going through them, and you will slowly get the feel of how to correctly pronounce those consonants, okay? And there's something, a really cool way to memorize these consonants, which will be easy for everyone to remember, and that is, so that is the top line. So the top section over here, okay, we're looking over here, and it says, these phrases are an easy way to memorize the 22 consonants, okay? And remember, when we're reading Aramaic, you're reading from right to left, versus English, you read from left to right. In Surat, you read from right to left. An easy way to memorize them while they're still in order is this. So, Abgad, Hawaz, Hatti, Kulman, Sa'pas, Qarshat. I'll pronounce them again. Abgad, Hawaz, Hatti, Kulman, Sa'pas, Qarshat. So if you memorize that, and I know they may sound like funny words, but if you remember that, you will memorize the consonants in the Chaldean language. So when you say Abgad, what is the first thing you pronounce? Abgad. That means alap. Alap is first. What comes after alap? So you say Abgad again, beth, and then so on and so forth. And again, I'll remind you, if this is too fast or it sounds too tricky, please make sure to rewind and go through it again, okay? So traditionally, the Chaldean language was written with just consonants. There was no such thing as vowels when the Chaldean language was first written. But as new developments came, they started to add vowels. So they started to add these dots that they would put on letters to help pronounce them. And we will go over those right now. And it's fairly easy because you will notice how these are to be pronounced, okay? So it's written over here. Traditionally, written Chaldean did not have any vowels. A system of dots was later developed to accompany the words and distinguish the appropriate vowel vocalizations. The dotted circle represents where the letter would be placed. Okay. So the first vowel that we're introduced to is this one, okay? And you see how this circle right here, that is meant to have a consonant in replacement of that. So pretend like there is a consonant here, and you see the two dots right here going up. So there's two dots right next to each other going up. This is called skapa. And the way you pronounce that is, as you see, it's written here as an example, ball. So it has the same pronunciation as ball. And you see the A underlined, and that's what you emphasize. And then we'll go to the second one, and you see the two dots right there. You see them next to each other. You see where they're placed. This is called zlama kiriya. And the way you pronounce that is I, just like the word bit. So in bit, you emphasize the I. You see how the line is under the I. The pronunciation comes out to be bit. Okay. The third one is pthaha. So one dot on top of the consonant and one dot on the bottom. This is called pthaha, and it makes a sound as the A in balloon. So balloon. So you see the line that's under the A, it makes that same sound. So whichever line you see under the letters, that's the same sound it makes. Okay. Then we go to the fourth one. Okay, zlama qashya, and you see the two dots going downward. Okay, and it makes the same pronunciation as bear. So you see it go down. And a cool way to think about this is you just see the placement of those dots and you just follow. So you see those two dots going down, that would only mean that you go down in the way you vocalize it. So bear, you're going down, versus ball, you're going up, okay? Then we come to the next one, waw ruwicha, okay? Waw urwicha, that's only one dot on top. And then I'm just going to jump to the last one over here, waw aqta. And the reason why is because these may sound the same and they may look very similar, but it makes a big deal when you're pronouncing some of these words, because it could totally change the meaning of the word if you miss these vowels. So waw urwicha, you get the same pronunciation as boat. Boat. Okay, oh, you have that sound. And then the last one is oo, like boot. Okay, so one is o, one is oo. And like I said, this is very important to understand because it has a lot to do with the meaning of that very word. Okay, so again, this is something that requires us to continue to go through and to continue to practice, especially when it comes to the vowels. And we're going to understand how these are to be applied in the Chaldean consonants, but one step at a time. So first, we need to be familiar with these certain principles, and then we're able to apply it. Okay, but it's also important to understand the other principles that we will see in the Chaldean language. So you will see on the screen now, it says modified letters. According to the classic Chaldean grammar, 6 of the consonants admit modification or alteration to produce 6 new consonants. So look, these consonants, they change the way that letter sounds. So we saw Beth, okay, so we see Beth here, right? We see the consonant Beth, the second consonant, and we know the pronunciation of that, especially from the Abgad Hawas that we were learning. The way you pronounce that is B, right? But it becomes altered when you see a dot on the bottom of that Beth. And what does it turn to? It turns into wow. It makes a w sound, okay? And you will see that depending on the word you're reading, you will know if it does not have the dot under the beth, that means that it's still pronounced b. If it does have that dot on the bottom, then it's pronounced wow, like wa. And remember, this is called waw aqta. And then the second one, so there's only 6. The second one is Gamal. When we go through Gamal, Gamal is pronounced G. But when there's a dot under it, it changes the pronunciation to G. Okay? And you see over here, it says softened G. G. Then we have Daleth. When Daleth has a dot on the bottom, it's pronounced the, like the. You see that example there. Same with Kap. Kap over here. It's typically pronounced K for Kap. But when there's a dot on the bottom, it's pronounced Kh. And Pe over here can be a little tricky because it can mean 2 things depending on the word. So it's either F as phone or W as wow. So it becomes one or the other depending on what that word is. And then lastly, we have Tau. Okay, Tau usually makes a sound of T, but when you have a dot on the bottom, it's pronounced Th as thick. Okay, and those are the examples there. And then we will go to the next ones. Okay, and when you see the Beth with this half circle on the bottom, it changes the sound of it to V. Okay, and Gamal, you have the sound when you have the half circle under it. Remember, these are all half circles. All of these are half circles. That's an easier way to notice these. When you see the half circle, you'll notice how it changes in the sound of it. Again, depending on the word. Okay, so G, Gamal turns into J for J. Okay, then we have Tayth, and it changes into the guttural T, V. And then you have the Kap. When you have a half circle, it changes into ch, sound ch. Okay, so going through all of these, I know it may sound pretty complicated, it may sound a little confusing, but remember, when we're going through the words, all we're doing right now is we're getting familiar with the different principles, with the way these consonants are being used, being employed into these certain sentences. And when we start to get the feel of how this works, we're going to be more comfortable in how we're able to use them and how we're able to identify a beth. And if it has a dot under it, it turns into the sound wa. So once we have the consonants down, the 22 consonants, and we understand the 6 modified letters and the additional consonants that we just went through, we will get much more familiar with it. And another thing that I want to mention is for kap and noon. So the consonants, these 2 consonants, kap and noon. And you could go back and see the part where I went through them and look at that consonant and understand that when we're going through this, you're going to notice that these 2 will have 2 different endings, the way they're shaped, the way you write them, depending on the word. So some are attached to a word and some are not attached to it, okay? And that's all depending on how that word is written. Again, we will see examples of this later on. Okay, so the next principle after going through the vowels, after going through the modified letters, after going through the additional consonants, we will now be going through something called batlana and siyame. Okay, and we will read here, as at times a letter may go unpronounced, in which case in batlana, a thin line above or below the unpronounced letter is used as in, so over here, you see the example of it right there. You see that line right on top of the alep? That is the batlana line, and that means it goes unpronounced. So this word, so we have alep, noon, sheen, and alep. The way you would pronounce this is nasha. So you see the 2 dots going up, nasha. And remember, you do not pronounce the alep that's over here. Why? It's because it has a batlana on top, that line on the very top. And same here. You see that line right there, right above the noon. And when you read this word, you do not read it with the noon. You basically skip it. You skip over it. Okay? And then we get to siyame. Finally, there are grammatical marks that are used to show the number or tense of the word, such as siyame, which indicate the plural. So they mean this, and they give examples over here. Okay? So aresh, so this is aresh, and you see the dot on top, 2 dots on top. That means plural. It's plural. It indicates that this is used in a plural form. And same thing with yod here. Yod has 2 dots on top. And it signifies that it is plural. It is referring to a plural word. Okay? So what I want to do now is I want to end off on how to write these consonants. Because remember, you have to understand how to write them. So what we're doing now is we're getting familiar with what they are, how they're being used, what different principles there are in the Chaldean language. And when we have the foundation built, we're able to move forward. So next time we'll see you guys, it will be chapter 1. We will go through chapter 1, but first, before moving there, and I encourage everyone, even if we come out with the chapter 1 video, if you do not have this down yet, I encourage you to go through it again, master it, build yourself a foundation. Like Jesus says, we should build our houses on a strong foundation, not on sand, not on something that'll break apart. Okay? So what I'm going to go through now is how to write them. Okay, and you can do this at home. So, if you guys want to do this together, if you're doing it as a family, even if you're doing it alone, this is what you need to go through. Okay, so this teaches you step by step on how to write them. So you see the alab. See the alab here as one. You see how the alab is meant to be written. You see the arrow, first you start there, and then you see the way it goes down. That curve looks a little bit like a swan. And then you see the final product. The third example is always a final product of what it should look like. And get used to going, writing, and reading from right to left. That's how we will be doing it in this class. So if you want, you could pause the video now, and you can go through this right now and practice as much as you can. And I encourage you, even when you're going through the consonants, when you're going through pronouncing them, do it out loud, vocalize it. Because you would be surprised how big of a difference that makes with memorizing them and understanding how they're meant to be said. And same thing goes with writing. You should practice writing it constantly and going through it as much as you can, just so you could get very familiar with how these are to be written. And God willing, one day you will be able to write them as fast as you do English or even Arabic. So you could pause that, go through it, and I'm going to go to the second half of the consonants. So there we go. There's that second half. And again, you can go through that. You could pause this video, go through how to write the second half of it. So that was the introduction to reading and writing Chaldean. I hope this was informative for you all. I hope you enjoyed it, and I am very excited to be on this journey with you all, because we see, like I said in the very beginning, it is very important to cherish and preserve the jewels that our fathers gave to us. And we will be doing great justice when we're showing that we do care about our tradition, we do care about the things that were passed down to us. And it's up to us, and it's our responsibility actually to preserve it, because even our liturgy, when we worship God, it is traditionally in the Chaldean language. It's in Aramaic. So again, if anything was confusing, you can go back, rewind it, go back to a certain part that was maybe too fast for you, or again, you can reach out to me and I will be more than happy to help you go through it, or if there was anything else that was confusing or you need more information about, you want me to elaborate for you, I'll be more than happy to do so. May God bless you all, and we will see you next time as we start chapter 1.